Last semester, I took a class where we had to develop games with other classmates. If you see my last game pitch, then you already know the deal, so I'll speed through this explanation. There were 2 games we'd help create, each with teams of about 6 people, taking about a month and a half. At the beginning of the semester and halfway through, we had to give pitches of games we could potentially work on. After the pitches, we would rank which ones we wanted to work on, and then the professor would have the final say on who worked on what. There were like 17 people in the class, so 3 out of the 17 pitches both times, 3 ultimately got chosen and made into video games for a total of 6 completed games by the end of the semester. There were also themes we had to work within. For the second project, we could either choose the theme Live After Death or Sea of Madness, both Iron Maiden songs. I tried to incorporate both. This was my second video game pitch that I gave at the beginning of March. We also had 5 minutes per pitch. This time I was smart to do it in a Discord voice chat the night before, and it took too long, so I had to speed talk during the in-class presentation. Thankfully, I don't have to do that on YouTube. So, the working title of this game is Relive After Death, Seas of Madness. The narrative: that you did some morally dubious things in life. You didn't go to heaven and you didn't go to hell. You were sent to purgatory. You repented and you just graduated. You have to take the stairway to heaven, but you grew up privileged and chose to take the elevator instead. Yeah, well, the problem is the elevator is actually the elevator and sends you straight down, and you crash land in the bottom circle of hell. You're on a small island surrounded by a sea of madness. You walk up to an ascension pad and you warp to the next upper circle of hell, and you realize the circles of hell are not limited to 3 dimensions. They are not stacked on top of each other. They are stored within one another, like worlds within worlds. So when you went on top of this pad, you ascended to the next circle of hell and stand on top of a small pool of blood. In the center lies a pedestal, atop it the circle you were just in. You can pick up this circle and either put it back or place it on a different pedestal. The circles of hell are out of order, and to fix the elevator, you must put them back in their right places. Iron Maidens are scattered throughout hell. You came from purgatory first, so you can't sacrifice yourself. If you go in them, you will be reborn at the last ascension pad you stood on. The circles of hell can give you different abilities while you're holding them. So, for example, the rare Styx circle can summon water to put out a fire. Use the powers from the circles of hell to solve the puzzles. Put the circles back in their right pedestals and get the hell out of there. The aesthetics of this game, it would be from a first-person perspective. Scenes are loosely inspired by the circles of hell. There'd be minimal texture detail with a focus on color and composition. It'd be like a painting if you took a few steps back. You can't see all the details, you can't see all the brush strokes, but you can see the general visual composition and the color composition. Themes: hell you see is desolate and empty. The feeling of going through limbo, existentialism, nihilism, repentance, acceptance, and of course, fun, because you're solving puzzles. The technology for this game would be keyboard and mouse and the standard gamepad, so 2 sticks for move and look, and then 1 button for context-sensitive actions like interacting and pick up and drop. The reason for this is that there are a lot of adventure games where it's not abundantly clear what you can and can't interact with, and this would have UI and feedback to make it very clear what you can and cannot interact with. So you're not just clicking or pressing this button all over the place. Madness effects. So there's this game called Eternal Darkness. There's a sanity meter, and if it gets too low, weird things start to happen, like hallucinations where statues are looking at the player will grow or shrink suddenly. The player will sink to the ground like it's quicksand. There'll be voices in your head, or you'll be low on ammo, and then you'll walk into a room and find a lot of ammo, but oh, you're just hallucinating. There are also even fourth wall breaking effects. So like the volume of the TV input will quote unquote change, but not really. And then when you go to save, it'll ask you, the game will prompt you do you want to delete all your saves? And you'll of course say no, but then it says deleting all saves, and then the screen flashes and it's like, oh, you're just hallucinating. So this could potentially be implemented, but probably not. It's just a stretch goal. And that's where the in-class presentation ended because it was already too long. It was like, I was at 4.5 minutes. So this is what I added on after for this video specifically, is if you didn't already know, I stole the main mechanics of this game from Cocoon, which is a great game, and you should totally go play it. And then there's some other titles that I thought to use, but didn't. So Helldiver is even more popular then because this was the beginning of March, and Helldiver came out in February. Threw Helen back, didn't use that one. And then also Hellception, which is, honestly, a little lazy. So this game did not end up winning. Same as my last one, I brainstormed this concept pretty quickly. I think that it was still one of the strongest pitches. It's cohesive, so all the elements from the gameplay, mechanics, setting, narrative, and art would all work really well with each other. I also made sure that a project like this could be completed in a month and a half by 6 inexperienced game developers just working on this for a college course. One of the things I find funny is that when trying to come up with a way the player could voluntarily die for the sake of the name, right? Relive after death. I was actually struggling because, a gun or another weapon seemed too violent and dark. But then I remembered that the artist's songs, which were the two themes, was Iron Maiden. So I thought that worked really well. Thought that made the perfect device. The game I ultimately ended up making for this second half of the semester was called Neon Sense, like neon and nonsense, which you can get from my itch.io page. We wanted to come up with a better name, but never did. I learned that first-person shooters are hard to make. What made this project even harder is that 2 of the 6 developers were graduating seniors who totally clocked out almost the whole time and barely did anything, including the person who came up with the concept who wanted his name removed from the credits. He also privated the repo so no one else can see it. Those 2 people meant that our lead programmer and I had to do the work of like 2 or 3 people, which was not fun. Overall, I feel the class was too hands-off. The professor gave everyone an A regardless of how much work they put in, so you could totally not carry your weight and get away with it, which sucked. I had another games programming class the previous semester where the project was not only graded after development sprints, teammates also had to rank how well everyone did, and the grades were weighted based on that. I got an A- in the class when I thought I would have gotten a B. But in that class too, me and one other girl put in way more effort out of the 6-person group. So for this project, I was mostly in charge of the level design for level 1 and then revising the level design for level 2, where I tried to teach the player the main mechanics and experiment with them a little bit. There's wall running and platforming, which was fun to work with. I was also in charge of the technical art and lighting, especially the environments. We took a lot of inspiration from old shooters like Quake, mixed with more modern lighting and PBR materials, right? But all of these textures, for example, are not only low resolution, they also don't have any kind of texture filtering on them, which is why they look so pixelated. But actually, a lot of old video games like those on the PlayStation and N64 use real-life photograph textures. It's just that they're so resolution, it's kind of hard to tell that they were from real life. Even games like Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie and those other games which have a more cartoony look, at least in the characters, actually used more realistic looking textures, which I find interesting. They were on these texture CDs, and now there's something called texture archaeology to kind of find where all these textures came from. But that's a whole nother tangent entirely. So I was honestly prouder of my other game pitch, Galactic Heist. I actually already started making that one. This pitch, I could, take it or leave it. I'm still really proud of it, but not as motivated to make it. But anyway, that's my pitch. So stay tuned for my next videos. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you to my patrons, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.